I wanted to take a moment here to talk about a long overdue Hall of Fame induction of the Cuban comet, Minnie Miñoso, who, you know, paved the way for Cuban baseball players. And maybe for that reason alone, he should have been a Hall of Fame inductee a long time ago.
Yeah.
But there's other stats, and we see this a lot, where he where other guys in the Hall of Fame rank in certain things. But I mean, he's a 13-time All-Star, 3-time Gold Glover, led the league in stolen bases 3 times, is in the top 10 times. He led the league in triples 3 times, is in the top 10 8 times.
Mm,
2,113 hits, 848 career OPS. He was in the
wow.
top 10 of OPS 10 times in his career. Um, but what's interesting is, like, you look at wins above replacement, right? His lifetime WAR is 53.8. Kirby Puckett was inducted into the Hall of Fame with a 51.2 for an outfielder. Jim Rice was inducted in the Hall of Fame for a 47.7, and Lou
Mm,
Brock was inducted into the Hall of Fame, all while they were alive, by the way, for a 45 point with a 45.3. So
yeah.
he's
What are
just
we
a
doing?
yeah. What are we doing? And the it's just sad it took this long. I'm happy his family was there.
Yeah. I heard
And
interviews with his son all weekend on the score. They were talking to him a lot, so you can tell it means a lot to him and the certainly the Cuban community.
yeah, it means a lot to Cuban players. I saw someone found Alexi Ramirez and asked him about it, and he said it's long overdue, and
Hmm.
he felt it was just a shame that it didn't happen, while he was here to see it. But um,
Well,
you
you know
know,
my thoughts about the Hall of Fame.
yeah,
I've pretty much
exactly.
written it off over the years because it's so arbitrary, and especially this weekend with Big Poppy getting in, who was on the Mitchell list. We know he was a juicer at one point. The writers just arbitrarily selecting people that they like to go into the Hall of Fame versus uh, Barry Bonds cannot be in the Hall of Fame in their minds because he was a jerk, which is just ludicrous. And
Number four on the all-time WAR list.
Yeah, Big Poppy gets in because he was a fun guy, a good guy, which is great.
Yeah.
But I mean, I posted on Twitter. It's like juicer plus good personality equals Hall of Famer.
Yeah, there you go. It is.
That's all you have to do. It's just stupid.
Ridiculous.
And this is frustrating in that Minoso hadn't been in the Hall of Fame to this point. He's obviously should be, and I guess they've righted that wrong. But after his death now, so he doesn't get to enjoy that. I'm glad his family does, but I just we typically do like we used to do a thing about the Hall of Fame every year. I just can't do it anymore. It's
No,
just gross. So
yeah, it's kind of a waste of our time. The only time it's worth talking about is when someone from one of our teams gets in.
yeah.
So
Minoso, the other thing I wanted to ask you about at least is, since he was a real trailblazer, kind of like I've heard him referred to as the Latino Jackie Robinson, kind of breaking that barrier for Latinos or and Cubans in baseball. But is that part of what, the White Sox are well known for having a lot of Cuban players over the years, and including several on your roster right now? Do you think that is that he was instrumental in that kind of the Cuban pipeline, if you will, that has gone to the South Side? Like, do you think like players know the history and say, "Hey, Minoso made his name with the White Sox. I should, if I can defect or however, get the fuck out of that country. I want to play for the White Sox." Do you think that's a real thing?
I think it is a real thing. You rarely does a Cuban player not talk about Minnie
Yeah,
in
that's
at some
cool.
point. Um, but to your point, like, he is like for Latino players too. I wasn't clear on the statistic, but it was Jackie Robinson, and then I think there was another African American player came in the league, and then Minnie Miñoso. So he's like the third guy on the list
Oh wow.
of even color to be playing in the
Yeah.
majors. He's like third or fourth. So you think about that too. and they got him from Cleveland, probably what, the Spiders at that time in the 40s, or were they the
No, that was an NL team in the
oh
1800s.
in the 1800s? I saw someone with a Spider shirt on the other day. It looked cool, but
Mm.
they got him from Cleveland because they wouldn't bring him up. They wouldn't
Oh
let him
wow, I didn't know
play.
that.
Yeah, so they were happy to trade him away, and the Sox brought him up right away, and the rest is kind of history. I mean, he 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 had some really good numbers for the White Sox over his career, including good enough to, he would come back. Are you familiar with this? They would bring him back. He played in 5 decades because the Sox would sign him for a game, and he would actually physically play in a Major League Baseball game
In
in
what
the regular
decade?
season. They did it in the last time was the 80s. Was the
Wow,
last time he played for the White Sox, but they did it in the 70s too.
that's cool.
I think in the 70s he played in 2 games, 2 or 3 games, probably because they were horse shit, so it didn't matter. But yeah, so it's cool they let him do that to have sort of like this. That's Bill Veck at his
Yeah.
finest. Good promotion, get some extra fans out to the ballpark. That's what he did. So, but yeah, congratulations to Minnie and to his family for finally getting this long overdue day of recognition.
Word Hole Media.